محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله. السلام عليك يا ابن رسول الله. السلام عليك يا خيرتك الله وابن خيرته. السلام عليك يا ابن أمير المؤمنين وابن سيد الوصيين. السلام عليك يا ابن فاطمة سيدة النساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا ثار الله وابن ثاره والوتر الموتور. السلام عليك وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم مني جميعا سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار. يا أبا عبد الله، لقد عظمت الرضية وجلت وعظمت المصيبة بك علينا وعلى جميع أهل الإسلام، وجلت وعظمت مصيبتك في السماوات على جميع أهل السماوات. فلعن الله أمة أسست أساس الظلم والجور عليكم أهل البيت، ولعن الله أمة دفعتكم عن مقامكم وأزالتكم عن مراتبكم التي رتقب الله فيها، ولعن الله أمة كتلتكم، ولعن الله الممحدين لهم بالتمكين من قتالكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم ومن أشيائهم وأتباعهم وأوليائهم. يا أبا عبد الله، إني سلم لمن سالمهم، وحرب لمن حاربكم، وولي لمن والاكم، وعدو لمن آداكم. ولعن الله إني سلم لمن سالمكم وحرب لمن حاربكم إلى يوم القيامة. ولعن الله آل زياد وآل مروان، ولعن الله بني أمية قاتبا، ولعن الله ابن مرجان، ولعن الله عمر بن سعد، ولعن الله شمرا، ولعن الله أمة أسرجت وألجمت وتنكبت لقتالك. بأبي أنت وأمي لقد عظم مصابي بك، فأسأل الله الذي أكرم مكامك وأكرمني أن يرزقني طلب ثاري مع الإمام المنصور من أهل بيت محمد صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم اجعلني عندك وجيها بالحسين عليه السلام في الدنيا والآخرة. يا أبا عبد الله، إني أتقرب إلى الله وإلى رسوله وإلى أمير المؤمنين وإلى فاطمة وإلى الحسن وإليك بموالاتك وبالبراءة ممن قتلك ونسب لكم الحرب، وبالبراءة ممن أساس الظلم والجور عليكم، وأبراء إلى الله وإلى رسوله ممن أساس ذلك وبنى عليه بنيانا وجرى في ظلمه وجوره عليكم وعلى أشيائكم. برئت إلى الله وإليكم منهم، وأتقرب إلى الله ثم إليكم بموالاتكم وموالاة وليكم، وبالبراءة من أعدائكم والناسبين لكم الحرب، وبالبراءة من أشيائهم وأتبائهم. إني سلم لمن سالمهم، وحرب لمن حاربكم، وولي لمن والاكم، وعدو لمن آداكم. فأسأل الله الذي أكرمني بمعرفتكم ومعرفة أوليائكم، ورزقني البراءة من أعدائكم، أن يجعلني معكم في الدنيا والآخرة، وأن يثبت لي عندكم قدم صدق في الدنيا والآخرة. وأسأله أن يبلغني المكام المحمود لكم عند الله، وأن يرزقني طلب ثاره مع الإمام الهدى ظاهر ناتك بالحق منكم. وأسأل الله بحقكم وبشأن الذي لكم عنده أن يعطيني بمصاب بكم أفضل ما يعطي مصابا بمصيبتي، مصيبتي ما أعظمها وأعظم رضيتي في الإسلام وفي جميع السماوات والأرض. اللهم اجعلني في مكامي هذا ممن تناله منك صلوات ورحمة ومغفرة. اللهم اجعل محيا محمدا وآل محمد، ومماتي ممات محمدا وآل محمد. اللهم إن هذا يوم تبركت به بنو أمية، وابن آكلة الأقباد اللعين ابن اللعين على لسانك ولسان نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله في كل موطن وموقف، وكفى فيه نبيك صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم لعن أبا سفيان ومعاوية ويزيد بن معاوية، عليهم منك اللعنة أبد الآبدين. وهذا يوم فرحت به آل زياد وآل مروان بقتلهم الحسين صلى الله عليه وآله. اللهم فضاعف عليهم اللعن منك والعذاب العليم. اللهم إني أتقرب إليك في هذا يوم وفي موقفي هذا وأيام حياتي بالبراعة منهم واللعنة عليهم، وبالموالاة لنبيك وآل نبيك عليه وعليهم السلام جميعا. اللهم لعن أول ظالم ظلم حق محمدا وآل محمد، وآخر التاب له على ذلك. اللهم لعن الإسابة التي جاهدت الحسين وشايات وبايات وتابعت على قتله. اللهم لعنهم جميعا. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليكم مني سلام الله عبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعل الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. اللهم خص أنت أول ظالم باللعن مني، وابدأ به أولا ثم عن الثاني والثالث والرابعة. اللهم لعن يزيد خامسة، والعن عبيد الله بن زياد وابن مرجان وعمر بن سعد وشمره وآل أبي سفيان وآل زياد وآل مروان إلى يوم القيامة. اللهم لك الحمد حمد الشاكرين لك على مصابهم، الحمد لله على عظيم رضيته. اللهم ارزقني شفاعة الحسين يوم الورود، وثبت لي قدم صدق عندك مع الحسين وأصحاب الحسين الذين بدلوا محجهم دون الحسين عليه السلام. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. الفاتحة.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. صل على محمد وآل محمد.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجه.
قید ہو کے جاتی ہوں نوحتائے زینب کا، قید ہو کے جاتی ہوں لٹ گئی میری دنیا، قید ہو کے جاتی ہوں چل بسا میرا بائی میں ہوں اور تنہائی، چل بسا میرا بائی میں ہوں اور تنہائی، کوئی بھی نہیں اپنا قید ہو کے جاتی ہوں، ابن ساقیے کوثر دونوں ہاتھ کٹوا کر، ابن ساقیے کوثر دونوں ہاتھ کٹوا کر سو گئے لبے دریا، قید ہو کے جاتی ہوں نوحتائے زینب کا، قید ہو کے جاتی ہوں جلتی ریت پر اصغر کیسے نیند آئیں گی، جلتی ریت پر اصغر کیسے نیند آئیں گی، تپ رہا ہے انصارا قید ہو کے جاتی ہوں لٹ گئی میری دنیا، قید ہو کے جاتی ہوں کائی ہے تماچے بھی تشن لب سکینہ نے کھائی ہے تماچے بھی تشن لب سکینہ نے کیسے لے چلوں اس کو قید ہو کے جاتی ہوں نوحتا یہ زینب کا قید ہو کے جاتی ہوں لٹ گئی میری دنیا قید ہو کے جاتی ہوں صلوات علی محمد وآل محمد وآل محمد صلوات زینب نے کہا یہ رو رو کر دو حوصلہ بابا زینب کو زینب نے کہا یہ رو رو کر دو حوصلہ بابا زینب کو تنہا ہے لعینوں میں دختر تنہا ہے لعینوں میں دختر دو حوصلہ بابا زینب کو زینب نے کہا رو رو کر دو حوصلہ بابا زینب کو بابا میں بڑی بیٹی ہوں تیری سب بدلا لیں گے مجھ سے تیرا لوگوں کے بدلتے ہے تیور لوگوں کے بدلتے ہیں تیور دو حوصلہ بابا زینب کو زینب نے کہا رو رو کر دو حوصلہ بابا زینب کو یہ زینب ہے کلثوم ہے یہ آپس میں ستمگر کہتے ہیں، یہ زینب ہے کلثوم ہے یہ، آپس میں ستمگر کہتے ہیں، ہنستے ہیں تماشائی ہم پر، ہنستے ہیں تماشائی ہم پر، دو حوصلہ بابا زینب کو، زینب نے کہا یہ رو رو کر، دو حوصلہ بابا زینب کو، ہمت یوں بڑھاؤ بیٹی کی، عابد کو بچا کر کے جائے، ہر گھر سے برستے ہیں پتھر، ہر گھر سے برستے ہے پتھر، دو حوصلہ بابا زینب کو، زینب نے کہا یہ رو رو کر، دو حوصلہ بابا زینب کو، احساس رضا کا ہوگا مجھے، تم ہاتھ میرے سر پر رکھ دو، احساس رضا کا ہوگا مجھے، تم ہاتھ میرے سر پر رکھ دو، مشکل ہے اگر دینا چادر، مشکل ہے اگر دینا چادر، دو حوصلہ بابا زینب کو، زینب نے کہا یہ رو رو کر، دو حوصلہ بابا زینب کو، الفاتحہ مع الصلوات.
رحم اللہ من قرأ سورة المبارکة الفاتحة. اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان اللعین الرجیم، بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم، الحمدللہ بارئ الخلائق الاجمعین، باعث الانبیاء والمرسلین، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء حبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. ثم الصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين، لا سيما ولي الله الحجة ابن الحسن صاحب الأمر والزمان. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد. روحي وأرواح العالمين له الفداء، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الأولين والآخرين إلى قيام يوم الدين. صلى الله عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، صلى الله عليك يا مولاي يا أبا عبد الله، يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة، يا غريب الغرباء، يا مظلوم كربلاء، السلام على من جعل الله الشفاء في تربته، السلام على من الإجابة تحت قبته، السلام على ساكن كربلاء. فيا ليتنا ثم يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي، يا سادتي، فنفوز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، قال مولانا إمام أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب صلوات الله وسلامه عليه: لا عبادة كالتفكر في صنعة الله. صدق المولى. زينوا مجالسكم بذكر محمد وآل محمد. Second of your loudest salawat to gain the special attention of Mawlati Sayyidati Nisa'il Alameen. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Ahibba'i, you find this hadith al-sharif on authority of Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, where he says, there is no ibadah such as contemplation on the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yani, from all the aspects of worship through which you could gain proximity towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, contemplation on the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by far is one of the most powerful aspects of worship. And it is through contemplation over the creation of the Lord that you are able to realize the grandeur of your Creator. And taking time to contemplate over this, in essence, is a spiritual exercise that breeds and cultivates the aspect of yaqeen, certainty. You find that many times in life, when it comes to compliance towards the religion or affiliation with Ahlul Bayt, there is taraddud. Taraddud in that we second guess ourselves, or we are reluctant, or we are hesitant because of a lack of an element called certainty. You find that this is an aspect in every fundamental tenet of the religion. Having certainty in the existence of Allah, having certainty in the concept of justice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, having certainty in the concept of justice. The first consequence is a person within himself is able to nurture the power of patience in the face of trials and tribulations through the understanding of the concept of justice. And similarly, when you come to Nabuwah and the Imamah, understanding this allows you to now embrace a deen that not only secures your dunya as well as your akhirah. And then you have ma'ad. Ma'ad, our usuluddin in essence is 5. Tawheed, Adala, Nabuwa, Imama. Generally we say Qiyamah. When there were books, we generally find Qiyamah, for example, or Qiyamah, Day of Judgment. Qiyamah technically is incorrect because Qiyamah is only a part of the hereafter. Qiyamah is the Day of Judgment, our fundamental belief, Tawheed, Adalat, Nabuwat, Imamat, and Ma'ad. And if you refer back to all the books written in Usuluddin or Ilmul Kalam by our Maraja, go back 100, 200, 300 years ago, you'll find the ulama of Kalam, when they categorize into chapters, tabweeb, when they begin to write chapters in terms of Usuluddin, the last chapter is always Ma'ad. Why? Because Ma'ad means afterlife. It is a concept much more general than Yawmul Qiyamah, which is something very, very specific. Yawmul Qiyamah is only one aspect of an afterlife. This Yawmul Qiyamah, which is the duration is 50,000 years of this human life, but it's only a part of our existence. After the day of Qiyamah, there is Jannah and there is Jahannam. And before Qiyamah, there is Alam al-Raj'ah. Alam al-Raj'ah, where the Ahlul Bayt will come back on earth to establish justice for that which they were prohibited from. So there's a realm of existence that is waiting for us. And with Alam al-Raj'ah, you have Alam al-Barzakh. And to have faith in all of these are fundamental aspects. Barzakh, this realm of existence after death, where your body is separated from your soul, and your existence now is your soul in this new realm of existence in its entirety. For Ma'ad, the afterlife, certainty in the belief of the afterlife allows you to make the right choices in life between halal and haram, right and wrong. Because when you are certain that you are accountable for all your actions, you have this element of self-discipline, this self-policing factor inside of you that pushes you to abide by a certain code of conduct even if nobody else around you has this code of conduct, until you have it. Why? Because you are certain of accountability. For when Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam says, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, that the best of ibadat is an ibadat that is built upon contemplating over the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And you'd see that the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is closely related to the concept of wilayah and Ashura, because a fundamental part of your understanding of imamah is understanding in the wilayah takwiniya granted to them by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wilayah takwiniya is this authority over the entire creation. For you notice, if we were to begin to start with the Quran, and you were to refer back to Surah Al-Ra'd, Surah Al-Ra'd, verse number 2. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahu alladhi rafa'a as-samawati bighayri amadin tarawnaha thumma istawa 'ala al-'arsh wa sakhkhara ash-shamsa wal-qamara kullun yajri li ajalin musamma yudabbiru al-amr يفصل الآيات لعلكم بلقاء ربكم توقنون. It is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who raised the skies and created the skies, and you see this sky that doesn't fall down. Yani what? The sky that doesn't fall down on the earth. The manner in which it is stated over here in Arabic is a very eloquent and a very logical manner, pushing people to contemplate in essence over the rules of gravity, for the umq and the depth within the Quran. ثم استوى على العرش. Allah Azza wa Jal has established His grand power through the arsh. وسخر الشمس والقمر. And He has created the sun and the moon, and each of these creations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have an appointed time and an appointed period, the time of day and the time of night, and the sequence in which each one follows each other. And the verse goes on to say, in all these verses and all these signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has made the moon and the sun and everything within the skies as a sign for those who possess or use the power or the faculty of the intellect. And the goal of this is that they are certain of their meeting with their Lord. From here, Ahibba'i, you find that there is a number of things when it comes to tadabbur and tafsir of the Quran. Number one, the fact that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala announces and declares within the Quran that the universe, the skies, the sun and the moon are from His signs through which we recognize Him. The importance, the first lesson that we are able to extract from this verse of the Quran, the importance in studying astronomy and the importance of studying geography. The more you understand the environment and the universe in which you live, the greater your certainty in the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this opens the door for you to understand the purpose of your existence within this grand existence that surrounds you. Starting point is contemplation, studying. Afwan, contemplation that leads to studying. Studying these sciences. And you find that this is an approach that can be used across multiple disciplines, multiple fields in academics. When it comes to the field of science, when it comes to the field of biology, when it comes to the field of medicine, to study the human body in itself and the perfection within the human body, Body in itself is a sign from the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and creation. For the first lesson that you are able to take from this verse is the culture of education, which is inculcated within us through these ayahs of the Quran. Go out and seek knowledge in these sciences, be it medicine, be it astronomy, be it geography. Understand this universe and understand these signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. One. Number two, which is the most apparent reason that comes to mind as the first, is the ability to contemplate, or taking the initiative to contemplate. And when you look at verses like these, particularly in the context of the times in which we live, where cities and urbanization is becoming the trend and cities are expanding and we are virtually surrounded in jungles of concrete, to be able to come out of these concrete forests of brick and mortar and cement and tarmac from everywhere that surrounds us, to step out of this and to seclude yourself in nature and to take moments to contemplate on the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is perhaps one of the most powerful exercises, spiritual exercises, that now brings the mind back to equilibrium. Because on a day-to-day basis, we get carried away from the purpose of our existence. To cater for our material needs is important and wajib to a certain extent. But this is only a side mission for which we cannot get derailed from this greater objective that we've been created for. And taking time out from this lifestyle of ours to contemplate over this is something adhim, which is why you will also find from the scholars who have embraced on the science of disciplining their nafs, this concept known as tazkiyatul nafs, one of the fundamental steps in this science of tazkiyatul nafs is that they would stay awake into late hours of the night or wake up at early hours of the morning, and they would spend hours just gazing into the skies, looking at the moon and the stars and thinking about its creation. One of the first conclusions that come to mind when you contemplate over the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and contemplate over the creation of the universe is the perfection within the creation. And when you contemplate over this perfection, notice how the mind leads you from one conclusion to the other in a very logical manner. Because when you see this perfection, never in the history of creation has the night clashed with the day or the day clashed with the night, but there is this system that it follows. And you find that the percentage of oxygen, for example, within the air is just the perfect amount for human life to be sustained. The makeup of water and so on and so forth. You begin to realize the mind pushes you towards a conclusion that perfection cannot occur through coincidence or chance. The human mind does not accept multiple facets of perfection to happen by chance. Say, for example, you had the ability to flip a coin, and at every time you flip a coin, for example, hypothetically, you were able to get the head only, head and tails, two sides to the coin. Even a person who has mastered the art of flipping a coin such that every time it lands, it's always heads as opposed to tails. If you were to throw a mathematical probability on The fact that if he flips the coin 50 times, all 50 times the coin will land on heads as opposed to tails. Mathematically, if you put out a probability scale for this, it comes to almost zero. If to flip a coin, which can have only two sides, on heads only, is a mathematical impossibility, then what about perfection in the creation of an entire universe? How did it just come to chance? How did it just happen to be through a random explosion? Could have been an explosion, but that explosion must have been controlled. It must have been controlled by some master architect, if we agree to the theory of the explosion. And there's a very beautiful incident in regards to this, and I believe this was with Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad as-Sadiq salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajil farajah, where he was meeting with an atheist, and they were negating the existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in its entirety. And even when you look at the development of atheism and the arguments that build the different schools within an atheistic school, you will see that these are not concepts that are new. These are not concepts that come out as a result of a deep understanding of academia. The source and the core of the thought process existed from time before. The manner of its presentation is different. In any case, person came to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, and they were debating, and he came to argue with the Imam and debate about the existence of God. Mulhid atheist he was, said, I don't believe in the existence of Allah. And they believe that the world came into creation by chance. Tayyib, the Imam said, okay, I want to sit down and have a discussion with you. And it's probably one of the companions of the Imam, either the Imam or the companions of the Imam, and the confusion is on my side, I can't remember. Tayyib, they said, we will set an appointment, meet at a certain place, and we will have a debate. Tayyib. They set an appointed time and an appointed date. The atheist showed up on the day, on time. His companion of the Imam reached hours later. The atheist told him, you have no respect for time. We set a time, for example, 9 a.m. to be over here. So you're coming hours later. Companion said, you know what? Something absolutely insane happened. This is what happened. He said, I was coming to meet you, and then I saw suddenly a tree fall out by itself. And the bark of the tree by itself happened to carve into a boat. And that boat by itself just happened to move into the river that I wanted to cross over to come and meet you. The atheist said, are you joking? You mocking my intellect? The companion replies back and says, Subhanallah, you're not willing to agree that one boat can make itself from a tree, but you want to convince me that the entire universe came into existence by itself by chance. For this art of debate and this art of logic in terms of being able to explain and establish the existence of Allah Azza wa Jal, leave for outsiders, for us ourselves, because the goal is certainty. For you find that when you come back to the tafsir of this verse of the Quran, Surah Al-Ra'd, verse number 2, the importance, number 1, of studying sciences such as geography, biology, medicine, so on and so forth. Number 2, taking time from our daily lives of being surrounded by all this concrete to go out and contemplate through the true nature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This contemplation gets you to the conclusion that this universe is an attestation of perfection. And number 3, this perfection cannot happen by chance. If it does not happen by chance, there is the existence of a creator. Tayyib. If we understand this, and you understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala within the Quran says that the skies and the heavens and the sun and the moon are his signs through which he is recognized. You notice that these signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that the universe in its entirety played a great role in demonstrating the gravity and the seriousness of the massacre of Sayyid al-Shuhada on the day of Ashura. In fact, the universe became that sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through which his anger on the creation was manifest. You notice the extraordinary signs that happened or that took place throughout the universe on the killing of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. And a majority of these signs, when you look at the changes that happened in the earth and the changes that happened on the skies according to certain historians for 3 days and according to certain historians for 40 days, majority of these narrations are recorded in the books of the Amma as opposed to the Khassa, because history was always within the hands of the Amma. Look at what the hadith says, or the historian said. This particular narration is found in Sawa'iq al-Muhrikah and Tarikh ibn Asakir. And you find this in the book Tadhkiratul Khawas as well. Tarikh ibn Asakir from one of the most renowned historians of the Amma, of the Mukhalifin. He says, وَلَمَّا قُتِلَ الْحُسَيْنَ, when Imam al-Hussein was killed, أَذْلَمَتْ الدُّنْيَا ثَلَاثَةَ أَيَّامٍ, the skies went dark and the earth went dark for 3 days. وَإِسْوَدَّتْ سَوَادًا عَظِيمًا, there was a dark darkness that encompassed the entire skies. حَتَّى ظَنَّ النَّاسِ أَنَّ الْقِيَامَ قَامَتْ, until the people thought that the day of judgment has dawned upon them. وَبَدَتِ الْكَوَاكِبِ نِصْفِ النَّهَارِ, is the middle of the day and the stars suddenly appeared within the dark skies. وَأَخَذَ بَعْضُهَا يَضْرُبُ بَعْضًا, and the stars began to collide in the skies. You can imagine over here, Imam al-Hussein has been beheaded on the day of Ashura. And as a result of this, the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is manifested within the skies. These skies and this sun and this moon and these stars, which are supposed to be the signs of Allah, which you contemplate over in order to understand Tawheed, these now become the tools to express the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in regards to the killing of Sayyid al-Shuhada. وقامت بدت الكواكب نصف النهار وأخذ بعضها يضرب بعضا, the stars began to clash in the skies. ودامت الدنيا على هذا ثلاثة أيام. ودامت الدنيا, the entire world remained in this state for 3 days. يوم عاشوراء, 10th of Muharram, 11th of Muharram, yani from the day of Asr, 10th of Ashura, you count from them on. 11th, 12th, and 13th. These 3 days. Now we commemorated Ashura when? Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And to put these hadith in context of the days in which we live. These 3 days that have just passed us, Monday, Tuesday, and coming tomorrow, Wednesday. When a historian writes, Damat ad-dunya, the entire world was devoid of this sunlight. No, when a historian writes this, if the historian is a resident of the city of Kufa, before he writes this, he is going to verify with the people of Hijaz and the people of Misr and the people of the East and the people of the West before he writes a word such as the entire world. Which means that these historians, when they saw that the sky is abnormally black for 3 days and stars are clashing in the skies in the middle of the afternoon, their first thing was to see out of this city, out of this town, out of this village, is it the same phenomenon, Lola? And the more they went to confirm with residents of different cities, the more they found that the situation is the same across the board. So the historian comes and writes that across the world for 3 days, the sky was dark as can be. The anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala manifest for the killing of Sayyid al-Shuhada. And there is no surprise that the skies went dark for 3 days as the body of Sayyid al-Shuhada lay on the plains of Karbala without a ghusl and a kafan, unburied. Look at this hadith which is narrated by Ibn Qawlaway in Kamilu Ziyarat. This is an account taken from a resident of Jerusalem. Wallah, لقد عرفنا أهل بيت المقدس ونواحيها عشية قتل الحسين بن علي. قلت وكيف ذلك? The Rawi says, the people of Jerusalem said, we knew the day on which Imam al-Hussein was killed. We, the residents of Jerusalem and the surrounding areas of Jerusalem, we knew when Imam al-Hussein was killed. Said, what do you mean? How? Because from Karbala, by the time the news reaches Jerusalem and you have people through, could say what we say today, postman, by the time the news travels, it would have been at least a couple of days. The resident of the city of Jerusalem says, on the day Imam al-Hussein was killed, we knew this was the day he's being killed. So the Rawi says, how? Look at the answer. وَكَيْفَ ذَلِكَ قال ما رفعنا حجرا ولا مدرا ولا صخرا إلا ورأينا تحتها دما يغلي. There was not a single stone or grain of sand that we lifted in Jerusalem, except that when we lifted it, we found underneath it blood that was boiling, fresh blood that was boiling and simmering. وَإِحْمَرَّةَ الْحَيْتَانِ كَالْعُلُقِ. And our walls, the walls of our houses, were stained red blood. How? وَمَطَرَتِ السَّمَاء ثَلَاثَةَ أَيَّامٍ دَمًا. For 3 days, the skies wept blood, or it rained blood over us, the city of Jerusalem, such that our walls became stained red. This is attestation and historical accounts from the people who lived at that time. You get Adim these 3 days in regards to the killing of Sayyid al-Shuhada. And then you got to ask your question, why blood? From everything that could be there, why blood? And why this connection of blood with Ashura? In any case, you have the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle. This was a journal that used to be published in the United Kingdom. And from time, under either it was a part of the movement of the church or independent of the church, Allahu A'lam. But it seems that from what I understand, that is a part of, it was a journal or a chronicle that was run under the church. And what would happen is that this chronicle would list down all the major events that happened during that year. So in the year, for example, how we have in this day and age, in the year 1999 or the year 2018, towards the end of the year, 31st December, you'll always see on television, there is a program that comes that outlines all the major events that happened in the year. So Fulan head of state died, or there was a coup in this country, or Fulan country won the World Cup, or so on and so forth. You have highlights of the year. Similarly, there used to be a chronicle run by the church or affiliates of the church that would highlight all the major events that have happened in the year. And if you go back to the British Museum today, and you go to the library today in the United Kingdom, you find that the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, which is written in the English date that corresponds to 61 AH 10th Muharram, the conversion to the English date. You refer back to it, and this is available for anyone in the public to go and view within the libraries. The Anglo-Saxon Chronicle states that on that day, yani 10th Muharram 61 AH, the equivalent English date, in that day, in the United Kingdom, bread and butter and milk turned into blood. And they have no explanation for that. Inside of the United Kingdom, they were stoned. Perhaps thought it's a punishment from the Lord of the universe. The author does not write why. He says this is one of those strange events that happened in that year. That milk and butter turned into blood. You find that even the cosmos and the universe, in its own way, ordained by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to express the anger of Allah on the killing of Sayyid al-Shuhada. And these extra phenomenal events that are supposed to happen, that draws the attention of the people towards the killing of Sayyid al-Shuhada. And from this, there are many things from a fiqhi perspective that the Maraja are able to use in order to warrant the different means and mannerisms of commemorating Ashura, where attention of the people is attracted towards this killing of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Tonight being the 13th night of Shahrul Muharram, on this day, 12th day, is when the Ahlul Bayt as Sabaya entered into the city of Kufa. And even the manner in which they entered into the city of Kufa, prior to that, the blessed head of Imam al-Hussein was brought into the city by, according to some accounts, Khuli al-La'in, and according to some historical accounts by Shimr bin Dil-Jawshan al-La'in. The historians that mention Khuli brought the head of Sayyid al-Shuhada. It says when he brought the head of Sayyid al-Shuhada to the city of Kufa, he wanted to enter into the Qasr al-Imara and present it in front of Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. But because it was dark in the night, the palace doors were already closed. It was late in the night. So he decided to go back home. The historians mention, in fact, his wife mentions this. The narration is from his wife Nawar, who was from the lovers of Ahlul Bayt. Subhanallah, how destiny has for two people of such opposites to be together in marriage. An-Nasibi on one side, Aynun Najasa, and over here you have a Mu'mina. Says when Khuli entered into the house, he had the blessed head of Sayyid al-Shuhada, but he didn't want to enter into the house with it. So he left it in the courtyard and he covered it with a bucket that is used, or a bowl that is used to wash clothes. He placed the head of Imam al-Hussein and he covered it with that. He entered into the house. His wife says to him, "What happened? You have come back. Have you come back with any livelihood for us?" He says, I've come back with something that will gain us the gold of the world. She says, and what is that? She said, I have brought with me the head of Hussein ibn Ali. She looks at him and she says, Hussein ibn Ali? She says, yes, the Khariji. She says, which Hussein ibn Ali? He says, Hussein ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib. As soon as she heard Hussein ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib, she stood up and she said, may my head never rest on the same pillow as yours. Woe be upon you. People bring livelihood for their families, and you bring for us the head of the daughters of the head of the son of the daughter of Rasulullah. She said, I ask to be separated, to be divorced from you right now, Bahai. Never shall I live with a man who has committed such a crime. She says she went into the courtyard that night, and this bucket which was used to cover the blessed head of Imam al-Hussein, from there was a nur that was shining, and a beam of nur that reached towards the heavens. And there were these white doves that were circling around the blessed head of Sayyid al-Shuhada with this nur. And from here, Khuli the next day went, brought the head to Ibn Ziyad, and then it was raised on a spear to publicly be paraded. And the narration says it was on a day like this that Sayyid Zainab Siddiqat al-Sughra saw the head of Sayyid al-Shuhada raised on the spear. And it is on a day like tomorrow, the 13th, that Imam Sajjad alayhi salam miraculously left the prison of Ibn Ziyad to go and bury Imam al-Hussein in Karbala. He was able to come out of the prison unnoticed, go to Karbala, bury Sayyid al-Shuhada, and return back to the prison unnoticed. And Intum Shabab, don't be surprised on this. Yani, this was the same miracle that Rasulullah performed in his lifetime. And we read this in verses of the Quran. وَجَعَلْنَا مِن بَيْنِ أَيْدِيهِمْ سَدًّا وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ سَدًّا فَأَغْشَيْنَاهُمْ فَهُمْ لَا يُبْصِرُونَ. Ayat of the Quran that we recite every week. This was when the Rasulullah on the night of Mi'raj, or on the night of Hijrah, Afwan, wanted to leave Makkah to travel and migrate to the city of Medina. He was under siege. The enemies were surrounded his house, yet by way of miracle, Rasulullah left the house. They didn't see him, and he migrated towards Medina. The same thing بالضبط with Imam al-Sajjad. وَجَعَلْنَا مِن بَيْنِ أَيْدِيهِمْ سَدًّا وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِمْ سَدًّا فَأَغْشَيْنَاهُمْ فَهُمْ لَا يُبْصِرُونَ. With this, he was able to go to the city of Karbala, or to the deserts of Karbala. The narrations mention that when Bani Umayyah's army left the desert plains of Karbala, 3 days later, the tribe of Bani Asad, the women from the tribe of Bani Asad, came towards Karbala, and they came to fill water banks from the river Furat. When they got there, they saw that there are decapitated bodies covered in blood scattered across the desert plains. So they went running back towards their men, saying to them that there are all these scattered bodies. If we were not able to assist the people, if we were not able to assist them, then let us at least bury them. The narrations mention that the men from Bani Asad came towards the plains, and they looked at these decapitated bodies. They were discussing amongst themselves how they should bury the bodies. At this moment, they saw a horseman approach from a distance, and his face was veiled. The people of Bani Asad froze because they were scared it might be people from Bani Umayyah and they may get killed. So they stepped in their footsteps. They didn't know how to react. The horseman came towards them. This was Imam Zainul Abidin. He says to them, O people of Bani Asad, what are you doing here and what do you want? They looked at the Imam, the Jalala and the Haiba of Imam Zainul Abidin. He said to them, "Oh man," or they said to him, "Oh man, we wish to bury these bodies, but we don't know how to begin the burial. These bodies are without any heads, and we don't know how to identify them." At this moment, Imam Zainul Abidin removed the cover from his face. The Rawi says that the entire face cover of Imam Zainul Abidin was wet because of the tears that were rolling down his cheeks. Imam Zainul Abidin tearfully came off the horse. He walked towards all the shuhada and asked Bani Asad to help them gather the bodies of the companions and the Ansar of Imam al-Hussein. He began to dig the mass grave. Allah, Allah, Ya Shi'at Ali Muhammad, and now your hearts are in Karbala, in the Haram of Imam al-Hussein. And it is as if you were standing by the Dari that has the graves of the Shuhada. All of them, you're standing on the side and you are watching. The narrations mention that Imam Zainul Abidin, 72 of the companions of Imam al-Hussein, one by one he began to lay these companions inside of the grave. And then he covered the grave and there was one from the companions, Habib bin Mazahir. Habib bin Mazahir was buried by himself in his grave. Sayyid al-Shuhada then went forward, Allah, Allah, and he looked at the body of Sayyid al-Shuhada. Bani Asad came forward. Imam Zainul Abidin says to them, "O people, this body I shall bury myself and no one shall help me. It is only a Ma'asum Imam that can bury another Ma'asum Imam." The Rawi mentions that Imam Zainul Abidin sat besides the body of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein and he began to weep and cry for quite some time. Allah, Allah. Imam Zainul Abidin uncovered some of the sand that was by the side. As he uncovered it, there was already a grave that was dug as the grave of Imam al-Hussein. The Rawi mentions that Imam Zainul Abidin tried to lift the body of Aba Abdullah. It says first he tried to lift the body from the legs. The Imam Zainul Abidin was not able to. And then he went towards the right side. He was not able to. From the left side, the Imam couldn't. From the front, the Imam couldn't. The Rawi says we wondered, was the body of the deceased so heavy that Zainul Abidin was not able to lift? He says, and then we saw the Imam do a very strange thing. Imam Zainul Abidin laid down his Abba on the plains of Karbala and he moved the body onto the Abba. He then lifted the sides of the Abba and in this way he raised down the body of Aba Abdullah. The Rawi says, I wondered why is it that he placed the body on the Abba, Ya Shi'at Ali Muhammad. This is because of the manner in which the body of Imam al-Hussein was trampled by the horses under the hooves. The broken bones were such that the body could not be lifted except within the Abba of Imam Zain al-Abidin. Allah, Allah. Imam Zainul Abidin then buried Ali al-Akbar by the legs of Imam al-Hussein. The narrations mention that when Imam Zainul Abidin lay down Imam al-Hussein inside of the grave, Ya Shi'at Ali Muhammad. You know that when a dead body, when we bury our dead and we lower them into the grave, what do? We put the body on the right side, and then what do? We make a pillow of sand and we put the right cheek on that side. Allah, Allah. Wa sajada, wa sajada. How do you make a pillow of sand for the right cheek when this body has no head on it? The head of Imam al-Hussein on a spear in Kufa. The narrations mention when Imam Zainul Abidin laid down the body of Sayyid al-Shuhada, Imam Sajjad went into the grave and then he kissed the manhar. Allah, Allah. Ya Shiyat al Muhammad, the manhar is the part of the neck from which the head was separated from the rest of the body. The narrations mention Imam Zainul Abidin kissed the manhar of Aba Abdullah, and then he said to him, Amma dunya faba'daka al-mudlima. Oh my father, after you this world has become dark and depressing. وَأَمَّا الْآخِرَةُ فَإِنَّهَا مُشْرِقَةٌ. As for the afterlife, it has become enlightened with your presence. وَأَمَّا حُزْنِي فَسَرْمَدًا. Imam Sajjad says, "Oh my father, Aba Abdullah, as for me, my grief shall remain eternal, and my nights shall be dark and depressed so long as I am in this dunya by myself. Until I meet you, oh my father, my grief is eternal." When he said this, the people of Bani Asad say, Imam Sajjad then came out of the grave. He walked a certain distance and he lifted up an infant. Allah, Allah. Imam Zainul Abidin picked the body of Ali al-Asghar and he placed it slowly on the chest of Sayyid al-Shuhada. The narrations mention that the amount of time Imam Zainul Abidin took to place the body of Ali al-Asghar on the chest of Aba Abdullah. Our teachers used to say Imam Sajjad took such a long time because it is as if Imam al-Hussein was calling out, "Oh my son Zain al-Abidin, be careful with Ali al-Asghar." It is as if that arrow is still stinging the neck of Ali al-Asghar. He placed Ali al-Asghar on the chest of Imam al-Hussein. Imam Sajjad then came out the grave and he began to look on his knees. He began to scatter the sand. He began to scatter the sands on the plains of Karbala as if he was looking for something. The people of Bani Asad said, "This is very strange." So they went a little bit closer. What is it that Zainul Abidin would be looking for on the plains of Karbala? The Rawi mentions that Imam Sajjad dug through the sands for quite some time and then he found something. He picked it up and he kissed it and he placed it into the grave of Sayyid al-Shuhada. The person from Bani Asad says, the Rawi says, "I was curious, so I went a little bit closer and I saw it was one of the fingers of Aba Abdullah." This was the finger that was severed when Bajdal cut the finger to take the ring from him. They covered Imam Zainul Abidin, tearfully covered the grave of Imam al-Hussein. He covered the grave of Imam al-Hussein and with his finger, look at Madlum Imam Zainul Abidin, with his finger he wrote on the grave, on the sand, هذا قبر الحسين ibn Ali. This is the grave of Hussein ibn Ali. قتل عطشانا. He was killed thirsty. قتل مظلوما. He was killed while he was oppressed. At this moment, this is the final time. Ahibbai, tonight you are crying with Imam Zainul Abidin and you're giving him condolences. When he covered the grave of Imam al-Hussein, the people of Bani Asad looked at Imam Sajjad walking towards the river Furat, towards the Al-Qama. They said to him, "Oh man, oh Zain al-Abidin, is there anyone else that needs to be buried?" Imam Sajjad looked tearfully and said, "We have the grave of my uncle Abbas by the river Al-Qama." The narrations mention, today I read inside of the Maqtal that when Abul Fadil was struck and he fell down to the ground, it was not only the arms of Abul Fadil that were severed. The enemies did more to the body of Abul Fadil. The enemies did so much more to the body of Abu al-Fadl. This only becomes apparent when you read how Imam Zainul Abidin buried Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. Look at what the Rawi says. The Rawi says, we walked behind Zain al-Abidin as he walked towards the Al-Qama. At that moment, we saw a body that was lying on the plains without any arms. Imam Zainul Abidin dug open the grave. The Rawi mentions that we saw Zainul Abidin. When he lifted the body from the right side, the left side of the body fell over. When he tried to lift the body from the left side, the right side of the body fell over because of the amount of times the body was mutilated. Allah, Allah. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Matam Hussein, Matam Sajjad.
Hey Sham, hey Zed, hey Sham, hey Zed, hey Sham, hey Zed, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein. Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Ya Hussein, Zahra Jaya Dasra Ghazi. Hai Zahra Jaya Dasra Ghazi. Zahra Jaya Dasra Ghazi. Zahra Jaya Dasra Ghazi. Zahra Jaya Dasra Ghazi. Hai Zahra Jaya Dasra Ghazi. Zahra Jaya Dasra Ghazi. Zahra Jaya Dasra Ghazi. Zahra Jaya Dasra Ghazi. Hoya Karbal, hoya Karbal, hoya Karbal de vich juda Ghazi. Zahra Jaya Hussein, Hussein Ghazi. Zahra Jaya Dasra Ghazi. Zahra Jaya Dasra Ghazi. Zahra Jaya Dasra Ghazi. Hoya Karbal, hoya Karbal, hoya Karbal de vich juda Ghazi. Zahra Jaya Dasra Ghazi. Zahra Jaya Dasra Ghazi. Zahra Jaya Dasra Ghazi. Zahra Jaya. Jiyo Saina kehta daro, jiyo. Java ki sham te kufa, Java ki sham te kufa, Java ki sham te kufa, Java ki sham te kufa. Dekhu mahal te Ghazi. Zahra Jaya Dasra 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 Ghazi.
اج بھی بنتے حسین روندی ہے 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 خط میرے قید تو چھڑا غازی زہرا جایا آسرا 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 غازی چھ جگہ تو حسین چڑ آئے 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 پھر بھی پورا نہ مل سکا غازی چھ جگہ تو چھ جگہ تو حسین چن آئے پھر بھی پورا نہ مل سکا غازی زہرا جایا آسرا غازی زہرا جایا آسرا غازی زہرا جایا آسرا غازی زہرا جایا آسرا جیو سیدہ کے عزادارو جیو آسرا غازی شمر رج رج حسین کو مارے 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 جانے جانے میرے غازی زہرا جایا آسرا غازی زہرا جایا آسرا غازی زہرا جایا آسرا غازی زہرا جایا آسرا غازی یا حسین 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 حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو اور نام نبی ذاتی قدر بار میں آنا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا پوچھو وہ 40 شب و روز کی جاگی ہوئی زینب 40 شب و روز کی جاگی ہوئی زینب بچگا کے گری جا اس وقت سے تم دیکھا وہ دوڑوں سے جگانا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو وہ 40 شب و روز کی جاگی ہوئی زینب 40 شب و روز کی جاگی ہوئی زینب بچگا کے گری جا اس وقت سے تم دیکھا وہ دوڑوں سے جگانا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو اور نام نبی ذاتی قدر بار میں آنا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو معصوم سکینہ نے جو ہاتھوں کو اٹھایا معصوم سکینہ نے جو ہاتھوں کو اٹھایا بابا کو بلایا بیٹی کی صدا پر سر شبیر گانا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو معصوم سکینہ نے جو ہاتھوں کو اٹھایا معصوم سکینہ نے جو ہاتھوں کو اٹھایا بابا کو بلایا بیٹی کی صدا پر سر شبیر گانا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو ماں بہنوں کے سر کو جو کھلا دیکھ نہ پایا ماں بہنوں کے سر کو جو کھلا دیکھ نہ پایا زمین پر سر آباد گانا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو ماں
ماں بہنوں کے سر کو جو کھلا دیکھ نہ پایا ماں بہنوں کے سر کو جو کھلا دیکھ نہ پایا کا دلایا نیزے سے زمین پر سر عباس کا آیا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو اور نام نبی ذاتی کا دربار میں آنا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو 40 شب و روز کی جاگی ہوئی زینب 40 شب و روز کی جاگی ہوئی زینب شکا کے گری جا اس وقت سے تم کا وہ تو لوگ لگانا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو وہ تاریخ یہ زندہ وہ سکینہ وہ اندھیرا تاریخ یہ زندہ وہ سکینہ وہ اندھیرا جب موت نے گھیرا ان آخر لمحات میں بابا کو بلانا سجاد سے پوچھو بے پردہ حرم شام کے بازار میں جانا سجاد سے پوچھو عابد بیمار تھا وہ عابد بیمار تھا چلنے سے جو لاچار تھا چلنے سے جو لاچار تھا اور شام کا بازار تھا اور شام کا بازار تھا اور مصطفیٰ کی بیٹیاں مولا حق کی ماں مولا حق کی ماں یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین شام غریب آ گئی شام غریب آ گئی عابد کو غیرت آ گئی عابد کو غیرت آ گئی پہرے پہ زینب آ گئی پہرے پہ زینب آ گئی عباس اکبر کا مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین مولا حق امام یا حسن یا حسین 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 یا حسین
محمد وآل محمد
رب جہاں پنجتن پاک کا صدقہ اس قوم کا دامن غم شبیر سے بھر دے اے رب جہاں پنجتنی پاک صدقہ اس قوم کا دامن غم شبیر سے بھر دے بچوں کو عطا کر علی اصغر کا تبسم بوڑھوں کو حبیب ابن مظاہر کی نظر دے کم سن کو ملے ولولہ اون محمد ہر ایک جوان کو علی اکبر کا جگر دے ماؤں کو سکھا ثانی ہے زہرا کا سلیقہ بہنوں کو سکینہ کی دعاؤں کا اثر دے مولا تجھے زینب کی اسیری کی قسم ہے بے جرم اسیروں کو رہائی کی خبر دے جو چادر زینب کی عزادار ہے مولا محفوظ رہے ایسی خواتین کے پردے جو دین کے کام آئے وہ اولاد عطا کر جو مجلس شبیر کی خاطر ہو وہ گھر دیا مفلس بے زر و لال جواہر کی ہو بارش مقروض کا ہر قرض ادا غیب سے کر دے اور سب مل کے غم کوئی نہ دے ہم کو سوائے غم شبیر غم کوئی نہ دے ہم کو سوائے غم شبیر ارے شبیر کا غم بانٹ رہا ہے تو ادھر دے محمد صلی اللہ متوجہ ہے زیارت
السلام علیکم یا رسول اللہ السلام علیکم یا امیر المؤمنین السلام علیکم یا فاطمہ زہرا